And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have a super simple and delicious recipe for you for apple butter. We've done apple sauce before. This one's a little bit different and involves a few more steps. We'd also like to remind everyone that we have a deal with Chef's Temp. If you need a kitchen thermometer, check out the link in the description below. And if you use code LOVEYOURFOOD on checkout, you'll get 15% off your order. In the meantime, let's get going with our ingredients for this delicious apple butter. We've got some apples. You want cooking apples for this. Some vinegar. We're going to be using some apple cider vinegar. Some sugar. Some whole cloves and some whole allspice. Some ground cinnamon, although you can use cinnamon bark as well, and some lemon juice. Now we're going to cut up our apples first, and we're going to cook them sous vide. So we don't need to get rid of the cores or anything, because we're going to be pushing these through a strainer a little bit later. You do want to get rid of the little blossom end, and if you want, you can get rid of the seeds, but it's really not necessary. Basically, what you want to do is just cut them into big chunks, and we're going to be cooking these sous vide. You can also just roast them or cook them in other ways, but we're using sous vide because it's pretty easy, honestly. So once you've got them all cut up, you've got the stems taken off, you've got the blossom end taken off as well. We're just going to put those all into a vacuum bag, along with the sugar and our whole spices, but we're going to crush the spices up a little bit, just sort of to wake them up. So we're going to get all the sugar in there. And then we're just going to just sort of lightly crush the allspice. The cloves can go in whole. They're going to spread their flavor. They've got a lot of those volatile flavor compounds, so it's not such a big deal with the cloves. But the allspice, we just want to wake them up a little bit and get the insides out, basically. So we're just going to break those up a little bit and add those into our bag with the apples and the sugar and the cloves. Now these are going to cook sous vide basically overnight. So you want to make sure, first of all, that you're going to get all the air out of there. Second, that they have a little bit of contact with all of the stuff. So you're going to give it a little massage to make sure those spices and the cloves and the cinnamon, the allspice are all well distributed. And the sugar also is a little bit distributed through all of those apples. And there we go. So we've got all of the air sucked out of there in the vacuum sealer. And then this is going to go into our sous vide cooler, basically. We've got an immersion circulator, and that's going to go into our cooler. And we're going to put the lid on that and then weight it down because apples float, which is why bobbing for apples is always popular this time of year. This, by the way, is a fantastic fall recipe. It's got these amazing flavors that are just perfect for fall. Now here we go. We've got our apples out of the sous vide, and you can see they're nice and soft. So they've all been cooked down. They've got those beautiful aromatic compounds added to them. So they've got the cloves and the cinnamon, all of that allspice, the sugar. It's all been mixed in. We always find that you get a little bit better flavor if you keep the skins on them to this point as well. But the next thing we're going to do is push all of this through a strainer. So you can see here, we've got them all in the strainer. This takes a little bit of work. It takes some work and elbow grease to get all of that material through the strainer. And the nice thing about this is it's going to keep the big chunks of spices out. It's going to keep the skin out, the stems, if you left any in, those bits of core and all that sort of thing. You want to leave that all in when you're cooking them because it's going to release some pectin. But you don't need to keep it. So we're going to strain all of the big chunks out. Now, once we've got it beautifully strained and nicely smooth like this, it's basically just applesauce at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce this and cook it for a little while. We're going to reduce it. We want to reduce some of the water out of here. As it cooks, it's going to take on sort of a jelly consistency. All the pectin from the core and the skins and all that sort of stuff, that's all been cooked into this mash, and we're going to reduce it so that it gets this nice sort of jelly consistency. Now is also a really good time to taste it, so we're going to adjust the flavor at this point. A little bit of salt never goes awry, and we're also going to add a little bit of the apple cider vinegar. And you just want to make sure that everything's a little bit bright, because once you have all that apple, it's been cooked, you have that sugar, the sweetness of the apples can sort of overtake the tartness. And we used some Granny Smith sort of apples, some cooking apples. But You want to use something that's quite tart because as you cook it, that sweetness comes out and the tartness kind of goes away, which is why you want to brighten it up a little bit with this vinegar and the lemon juice, which we're doing here. And don't be afraid to adjust your flavor to something that you like. If you don't want as much tartness, if you want it a little sweeter, then you can cut back on either of those. But a little bit just adds a little bit of depth of flavor to everything. So we're going to test this once we've cooked it down quite a lot. We've got a nice plate out of the freezer, and you can see it doesn't drip or anything, so it is ready to go. So we're going to get that out of the pan and into a bowl. You don't want to overcook it because you will sort of break down the pectin and it'll no longer gel properly. You can see the texture here as we're pouring it out of the pan and into this bowl to cool. It's just got that nice jelly texture, and as it cools, it's going to firm up a little bit more. Now, it's not going to be like a jam or a jelly, but it will be nice and thick once it's cooled down all the way. So we're going to get this into some containers. Now, at this point, you could also can this. So I'll put a link in the, just a little card up here with a link to our canning video about just general canning principles. And this is a common way to do it, is to can it. But if you don't feel like it's going to wait that long, if you figure you're just going to eat it, which is what we've done, and it's amazing, it's really delicious, it goes really, really fast because it's so easy to eat, this is a perfect way to do it. We've got these beautiful fresh baked biscuits, a little bit of butter, and a little bit of that apple butter on top. And that makes a fantastic snack or a side for brunch or whatever. It's really, really delicious. Actually goes really well with peanut butter, we found. And we hope you'll give this one a try. It is fantastic. Great fall recipe during apple season. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. We'd also like to thank our patrons. You've been a big support for us, and we're really happy that you're with us. If you want to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the description below. And remember to love your food.